Hi, I'm Susan Beck.
And I'm Nina McVeigh.
And today we're going to look at a page in the foot book, and this page has to do with sewing buttons onto your fabric using your sewing machine. I have a little mini book on that page, and it shows you different examples of how to sew buttons on. Also has hooks and eyes and snaps that you can sew on by machine. And the last page of that little mini booklet has 3 different stitches for sewing on buttons, and that's what we're going to look at today. These 3 stitches start with the simple zigzag, and you just go back and forth between the holes on the button.
How do you tie that stitch off, Susan?
This one, with the zigzag stitch, you pull it right, the threads to the back, and you tie them on the back.
Okay.
Then another choice is a universal, and I like this one because it's very secure. If you notice, the diagram shows that there are 3 little stitches down the side and 1 across, like a zigzag. Well, when you sew on buttons, you have your feed dogs down, so your 3 little stitches go in the same hole. So every time it goes across, it secures that stitch. So
that's the
yes,
security.
That's the security. Okay. 3 times in one hole and then across, 3 times in the other hole. So you go back and forth a few times. And then the easiest way of all is using the button sew-on program. If you have a computerized machine, you simply select the program, you put your foot on the foot control, it goes back and forth, and you just wait until the machine stops, and then the button is sewn on.
So could you do this stitch more than once if you wanted it really secure?
You can, but this one really adds quite a bit of thread, so I don't think you need to. It's very secure. For all of these techniques that I'm going to tell you about for sewing on buttons, you will do this with the feed dogs down. So you put the feed dogs down on your machine, and the first one is with the zigzag stitch. You put the button under the foot so that the holes of the button are in the opening of the foot. And you see the little rubber shoes on the foot? That helps to hold the foot on the button so it doesn't slide around. Then I select my zigzag stitch. I go back and forth 7 or 8 times, whatever I think is appropriate for that button. And then when I pull it out from under the machine, I tie off the threads in the back. And that's all there is to the simple zigzag technique. The second one uses the universal stitch. It's very similar, but in this case, it's going to tie itself off after every stitch. And I usually only go across 4 or 5 times. I use less thread when I sew on using universal because it is so securely held. And then the third one, with the button sew-on program, one advantage to this is you don't have to remember to put the feed dogs down. When you select the program, the feed dogs will go down automatically depending on your machine, and then you just simply position the button the same way and step on the foot control and don't let your foot up until it stops sewing. And you will be finished and it will be tied off. You still want to pull the threads to the back just for a neat look, but you don't have to worry about the security of the stitch.
How do you know how tightly you're sewing that button down, Susan? Is it tight to the fabric, or is it a little above?
Good question. The foot has an adjustable shank, so it's a little rod that you can adjust, and the stitch will form over this. If you're doing something for decoration and you want the button flat on the fabric, the shank is all the way down. If you are making a coat and you want some room behind that button so the coat can easily button and lay flat, then you would raise the shank up, and it would give you more room in that thread as it goes across.
And one of the things I like to do is put just a little bit of glue stick on the back of that button to hold it in place.
It's a very good idea, because then it doesn't slide around. I love my foot book. It's a project that you can find on the BERNINA USA website. If you like mixed media sewing and scrapbooking, you're going to love putting together these pages. They're filled with techniques that the BERNINA presser feet will do, and you get to practice all those techniques and build yourself a piece of art at the same time. If you want to learn how to really button it up, visit your local BERNINA dealer today.